how to protect yourself from time wasters. And today what I want to talk about is what happens when you're in a contract and extensions just keep eating up your time and the deal. So that's what I want to get into today. And there's two ways to look at this. Let's say you are an investor or you are maybe a real estate agent or someone, you're representing someone, right? So you get yourself into a contract, and let's say for argument's sake, there's a 30-day inspection period. And you're in a deal, you're maybe selling a property, all right? So you're selling an apartment building, and you're giving the buyer, you're allowing them to have 30 days, get in there, check all the financials, check the mechanicals of the property, everything they want, water heaters, ACs, all that fun stuff. Now, inevitably what happens a lot of times when you're dealing with more sophisticated, savvy buyers, and I do this too, is they'll stretch out the contract and they want to keep you on the hook as long as possible. So for my clients, if we're on the purchasing side, I'm using this strategy. And a lot of times it works very, very well. What happens if you're on the receiving end of that? And that's what I want to answer today. You don't want to get pushed around. That's definitely not good. You don't want to get your clients pushed around if you're representing them. What I started doing, and I've talked about this before, is have it more painful for the buyer to keep wasting your time. So a lot of strategies, I'll say, okay, well, after our 30-day inspection, we're going to give you $10,000 to stretch it for another 30 days. Okay. The problem with that is if you read a lot of the paperwork, it says they can stretch it out for 2 or 3 months and the buyer can get back all of their earnest money. Well, that's not very good for the seller. So what I started doing as the seller of the property, and this works, but you have to be very careful in how you do it because it depends on how you're doing it, right? So what I say is, okay, great. You can have 30 days, but if you want another 30 days, it's going to cost you $10,000. That money has to be released immediately. So there is no more escrow dispute. There's no more put the money in escrow. We're going to see how we're doing. That money is released to the seller immediately. Now, one of two things happens. Number one, they say, okay, no deal, which is fantastic because you don't want any time wasters. And I let them know that ahead of time. I let them know before we even enter the contract, if you want another 30 days, it's going to cost you $10,000 or whatever the deposit number is, and it's going to go hard immediately. Now, if they agree with this, that's pretty good. They're a legit buyer and they just want more time to do diligence. And they say, hey, that's fine, but we want another 30 days. So every time they stretch it out, they can have all the time they want, but it's costing them money. And what ends up happening is, and you take the deposit and the money they release to you comes off of the purchase price. So if our purchase price was $500,000 and we took $10,000 off, now our purchase price is $490,000. See what I mean? You want to make it fair. And the reason for that is if the deal cancels, there's no more escrow dispute, right? There's no more, well, this is my money, this is fair. No. We already settled all of that. So that really alleviates a lot of the BS, a lot of the pressure. A lot of these larger companies that are buying maybe 100-unit buildings or more institutions, they'll try to use this on the little guy. And the way I came up with this is I was actually on the side of the little guy. And when I saw, wait a minute, this isn't right. So you do end up losing deals, but it's a deal you didn't want anyway. You don't want a deal to drag out for 6 months. That's just not necessary. Even if it's unless it's, really large, significant deal. But if you got a 10 or a 15 unit apartment building, there is no reason that should take 6 months to close. And if they do want more time for whatever reason, maybe they said, hey, the roof is cracked, we think we spotted a sinkhole, whatever it is, that's fine. It's going to cost you some money because now you've wasted the seller's time and it's been a long time and what's going on with the results. Now, you have to be very careful because the inspection doesn't start until they get all the information. because there's a lot of times I've seen sellers just take a long time to get the right documentation to the buyer. And I'm actually, no matter what side I'm on, I'm very, very adamant about this. Inspection starts once the buyer has everything they asked for. And that could mean leases, rent roll, everything. I want them to have a really fair shot at this because I don't want them to ever think they're being taken advantage of. So start using that, implementing that in your contracts or in your future deals, and let me know how it turns out. Thank you.